Hi, welcome to Liberty Contracts. Today we have special guests Tariq Siddiqui and John Ryan Galani. We are going to talk about a whole bunch of very interesting subjects today, and this is going to be a series that's going to lead into many educational series, special guests, and just a whole variety of information that will help you make great and better decisions in your life. So let's get started. Today, let's start with Tariq. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a professional cybersecurity expert and also an electrical engineer by trade. And I am the piece that led to this whole project being created in terms of how to get your own liberty, what people can do in order to become their own man or woman, become sovereign, become liberated from the current system. I started working on this about 3.5 years ago, right around the pandemic time. Well, actually, just before the pandemic time, and so during that time, we also met John and some other people, yourself included, and so. Since that time, I've been working on this entire program.
Awesome, great. And how about for yourself, John? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Doing my thing. I'm self-taught. I started teaching myself law I think it was about 2007, because I realized that there was a lot of stuff there that I needed to learn that ultimately law school couldn't teach me. I've been trading stocks since I was about off and on since I was about 13 years old. Been doing a bunch of other odd jobs here and there, and I'm started helping out here because there's a lot of information that a lot of people need to know about where we go from here with regards to life, literally taking control of your person and your vassal, and turning the fear of a situation, stepping outside of your comfort zone. I'm gonna put it that way. So yeah, here to help out wherever I can.
That's great. And for myself, I've been just doing business for quite a long time now. Helping others is what I do now. I help people start their own businesses, and when I met you guys, I really wanted to I see the differences that you guys were making, and that really intrigued me. So I'm the greenest of the three here. I'm here to learn as much as all the people that are going to be watching our show and our videos and our podcasts. So I'm excited to get right into the learning. So Tariq, what led you to work on filing paperwork to become a sovereign in the first place?
That's a great question, Luke. The way that I can get started was the catalyst for all of this was, again, in the previous podcast that we had, I said it was 9/11, and still holds until today that 9/11 was the catalyst, and I had to really hunker down and figure out what I needed to do in order to function properly in the society. The second catalyst, which was, I believe, more potent than even the 9/11 event, was the COVID-19 false pandemic event, which happened, which led to the lockdown series in March of 2020, and which led me to then seriously look into becoming a sovereign, becoming my own man, being able to control my own destiny, and being able to control a lot that goes on with me, between me and the government, because I was seeing a lot of injustice done, a lot of people being stripped off their jobs, being stripped off their positions, and I did not want that to happen to me, although it did happen to me in December of 2021, where I got stripped. But a lot of people got unjustly terminated of their employment, or their entire way of life was disrupted. And so this got me thinking that, if there's nobody out there that's actually teaching this stuff, then at least on my part, I have to get on there. And while I actually discovered this stuff, there were other people that also discovered at the same time who were actually teaching this stuff. And so I thought that this is great that people are actually out there teaching this stuff, but nothing like this ever existed. There was no group chat, there's no podcast. They were just doing individual videos. And so this is where really that whole thing started. What led me to actually file my paperwork was by the name of a man by the name of Terrence Morris, and he helped me see that indeed filing your paperwork to become a sovereign and to hold the keys to your straw man is the proper way to go. And so that's what led me here.
Well, how about you, John? What led you to, look into educating yourself into the paperworks and how it all works and to become a sovereign yourself?
Honestly, it might be too far back to remember specifically, because I originally filed my paperwork in, I think it was 2008, somewhere around there. And again, it was no real particular event, but when I started studying law, I kind of got into a little bit of the, I guess you could say, freedom fighting or maybe protest scene with regards to something that was called Bill C-151 that was attached to the UN's Codex Alimentarius, which became Agenda 21, and then Agenda 2030. So it was like the original founding documents of that. And I've kind of watched it evolve the entire way. And then when this last 3 years kind of hit, I decided that, you know what, other people need to know this stuff. And yeah, beyond that, filing paperwork was just kind of I don't know, I guess you could say it was something that happened naturally.
Awesome. Tarek, I just want to get back to you for a second. You said straw man. Can you explain to the audience what is a straw man?
Yeah, for sure. A straw man is a trust or a contract that was created without your knowledge when you were first born in the world. And the straw man is created at the same time that you're born. It is essentially a corporation that has the same name as you, and may even look and sound like you, but it is not you. I think John can also testify to that, but that's really what, in very simple terms, a straw man is. So the government and other agencies, which are also corporations, can contract with you.
Right on. John, I'll ask you a different question because he just answered what a straw man is. Why is individual sovereignty so important?
I think because you get an understanding of who you are, who you aren't, who you want to be, and what sort of status you might have. You know, whether you're a slave to the system or a victim of the system or a refugee to the system or even just a citizen to the system, you want to be responsible and powerful and honorable in who you are and what you do.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know at all any of this. So this is going to be fantastic to open up people's eyes. And, can you expand a little bit and let us know, John, what benefits is there in becoming sovereign?
I would say the benefits are more almost internal. It's not like somebody's going to hand you a check for $100 million. That's just not going to happen. I don't think that government benefits are really, there's not, if the government of Canada says, hey, come to Canada and you get these benefits, those are benefits. There's no specific benefits like that for being sovereign. It's a matter of, like I said before, it's a way of life. It's a matter of knowing what your liberties are and what your rights are under God that you're given, and understanding those rights and correcting those, even if you want to call them ethereal contracts, but so that you have those correct in your mind, so that your individuality and your spirituality and everything else along the line gets corrected and you become who you are. That, I think, is probably the main benefit.
A great answer. Tarek, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, the answer is too perfect. But what I will add is that it really has to do with an advantage. It has to do with the mindset. As long as you recognize that there are advantages to recognizing, although the recognize is the wrong sentence, the wrong word. You have to recognize who you are, and when you start doing that, when you start going down this path that leads to self-liberty and self-actualization, I think that you will be better off for it. You don't want somebody to hand you benefits over. You don't want somebody to share resources just because you're handicapped or you cannot do something, and then they're just giving you a benefit, which is kind of like an insult to a lot of people, whether they realize it or not. And so, to me, being a sovereign or a sovereign individual it really has to do with the advantage of being on the same level playing field as all the rest of us.
Well, I haven't filed my paperwork, but I have been living my life as a sovereign by your answers today, my whole life. I have the right mindset. I always pursue responsibility and freedom of choice. So, I'm a man under God, and it's not about the government trying to control me. I see all the wrongs that are, people that are dependent on this government, are dependent on, when we talk about benefits, it really is the benefit of the mindset here is what I feel, because if you have the right mindset, you want to do better for yourself. You want to do better for the ones that are around you that you love, and that's where you're free, right? So, what is the process, the paperwork process to becoming a sovereign, Tarek?
That's a great question. I think that it has a simple answer as well. It really has to do with understanding how language and contract work. Now, because we are ushered into many different contracts that we don't really want to, so what happens is that it becomes a unilateral contract. There's no such thing as a unilateral contract. They're all bilateral, by the way. However, to explain to our audience what that means is uni means one and bi means two. So if you have a unilateral contract, you're contracting with yourself, which does not make any sense. Although you could make a contract and kind of have your own signature on it, it has to do more with understanding that there is a process to all of this situation, so you can actually take control of the straw man itself. Take control of the contract that was given to you without your consent or knowledge. When you do that, it becomes a little bit easier for you to navigate through this whole system, the administrative process and everything that the government has layered on top of us, kind of like a 2D layer. So what is the process? Well, first of all, you have to take control of the mechanism of the straw man, so you can make effective joinder, like we've been talking about, which is legal correspondence to the key individuals that we also identify in our talks and discussions in live or in the podcasts. So the first real step is creating joinder, which is called a live life claim or life claim, however you guys want to pronounce that. That's okay with me in the internet world out there. The live life claim, when you create that, it creates a legal binding joinder with the port authorities, which is the post office, and we talk about that as well. We may not have time in this podcast to talk about that, but maybe the next one. So when you create a joinder with the postal authorities, with the post office, that is the first step in creating this whole live life claim, or creating that joinder or that line in the terms of Admiralty law to go and claim your salvage, which is your body, soul, mind, everything. But now it's packaged in that little corporation that they have created in your name. And so when you throw a line to that, you salvage it. The first step is to create a live life claim. The second step is to create notices, to create notification for many of these people who are out there and they know exactly what they're doing. Many of them are lawyers, some of them are judges, and some of them are people in positions, ministerial positions that have various functions for the corporation that is named as your country. The final process, which we get into, is really becoming a secured party creditor, and we'll come to that when the time is appropriate. Secured party creditor simply means that you make joinder with the straw man itself, in terms of putting a lien on that straw man. So you are always first in line, first in time, regardless of who is legally suing you, pursuing a lawsuit against you, and among other things. So we really have to go through a 3-step process in order to get there. That's the answer, really, the long and short of it.
That's a great answer. I just want to have a follow up with John on this because he's had a different road than you've had. He had since 2008. So, John, can you explain a little bit more about the notices and how that's important as you are doing your paperwork and becoming sovereign?
Well, when you give the notices that you need to send out to the judges, the lawyers, the ministers, receiver generals, attorney generals, whoever they might be, you have to notice them so that they understand that they're contractually obligated. And that's one thing that the notice does, is it creates whatever their contract might be. It creates a new contract, or whatever your contract with them might be. It creates a new contract that you can now set the terms of for whatever your situation is. You can set the terms, and now you can say, hey, look, this is the thing that I want that you haven't provided for me. So now you have a chance to provide it for me, and you give them proper notice, and they have no choice but to act within that scope of what they have to do for you, because they're public servants.
Well, that sounds very important. Actually, I'm excited about that process for sure. Just a follow-up question on that, John, because a lot of people are going to ask this question: is there any financial motive to becoming sovereign?
Yeah, I think there is, but like I said, it's not somebody's going to hand you $100 million check because you became sovereign. There's all kinds of things that I've learned with regards to finances, law, contract, commerce, how governments work, how the administrative process works, all of it, that have helped me financially since then. You know, when I first started this, I ended up using a notice to cancel my contract that I had with the utility provider, and like for electricity, and because I was on like a revolving whatever contract it is, so that you pay this revolving rate for electricity, and it ended up that I used a notice to cancel that contract, and I don't think I've paid much more. I think right now is the highest that I've paid for electricity since then, like since 2009, 2010, I think it was, because they put me on a downgraded contract because I wasn't willing to volunteer anymore for the previous contract that they had me on. So they put me on a different contract, and now all of a sudden everything gets cheaper because there's no other fees in there. There's nobody else coming in there trying to set the terms of the contract for me and dictate what I can do in the contract. I'm now controlling the contract.
Awesome.
So I think yeah, there is a financial motive, but it's not necessarily an immediate, somebody's going to deposit a bunch of money in your bank account or something like that. In all actuality, you might find out that you have more money left in your pocket at the end of the day once you realize how banks work, and you cancel your bank account, or you cancel your NMAX contract, or you cancel a contract that you have with the government or something like that, because there's a financial motive, but it's not necessarily realized immediately.
So when it comes to contracts, as a sovereign, do you have the ability to change the contracts that are given to you from other people that want to contract with you?
Yeah, I think so. Contracts are fluid and dynamic, and they're constantly always changing. I mean, it can be express contract, it can be an implied contract, it can be a verbal contract, it can be a written contract. There's so many different ways that you could contract with somebody that now you can go through and recreate the things that you need to do. No, change those things. Oh, I wanted to follow up on what Tarek said earlier. You suggested that recognize wasn't a good word. But
Correct,
recognize,
because re actually cancels out the cognizance of the cognize word.
yeah, but I'm looking at a entomology dictionary, and it's early 15th century. Recognize means to resume possession of land, to know again, to identify, or to acknowledge, recall to mind, to know again. So that might have actually been a pretty good word to use.
May have been. Yeah, I was using the process syntax grammar to actually look at the word individually and the individual parts of it, and
Yeah.
maybe so there are two different contexts there, but yeah, I think they're both valid.
Yeah, definitely. And cognize means something totally different that's been changed over the years. So
Absolutely, I 100% agree there. I mean, it could mean, hey, you now it is within your consciousness, or it could mean something completely different depending on what the definition of the context is, for sure.
yeah.
Since I've met you guys, I've never really, I really did not know how much the language has been perverted. And that's kind of what we're doing here, is we're deciphering the language. And you guys are pros at that, so I'm excited to find out more. Did you have anything to add, Tarek, on any financial motives when you become a sovereign? I know that John gave his, but do you have anything to add?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that what John said was 100% correct. There's no immediate remedy. So if you think that there's an account out there with $11 gajillion, as some people would say, to give you, it doesn't exist, because a lot of people say, oh, but there's a CUSIP number attached to a birth certificate or something like that. Which is expressly not true. I think that it has to do more with creating the proper paperwork, and then knowing what your actual worth is, that will actually get you that financial incentive to actually go after this process. So let's say that you started this process and it cost you X amount of dollars. By the end of it, you may realize that the people who actually have this process out there, they've been doing this work for literally for free for you. And at the end, what you might realize, or maybe even in the middle, or even as early as the beginning, depending on how fast you can pick this stuff up, you'll realize that the amount of money out there, there is no money. In fact, it's really all IOUs. Everybody's owing somebody something. So the whole thing is a debt-based system. The only real money, if you even want to call it that, is really gold and silver, and maybe bronze or copper in some parts of the world, depending on what that is, what constitutes as money. So financial incentive, it is there. However, it's not fairly clear, because the government itself, nor the taxation agencies, nor the banks, nor any other financial institution, including the insurance companies, have ever defined what they qualify as money, because there are so many species of money that you can use in order to create that financial benefit, which we want to talk about in the subsequent episodes of this podcast. For example, one of them is a promissory note. And if you don't understand what a promissory note is, then I think that this is not the correct podcast that you should be on.
Or actually, it is the podcast you need to be on, so you can learn what a promissory note is. Just to comment on what you just said here, it seems to be that it's not really the financial motive here. It's more of the mindset motive. It's back to when you learn the right way and how to use it properly, and how to contract properly, and how to do it properly, then everything's gonna be better in your life. right? Every if the finances, everything's going to be better in your life because you'll know how to access things and contract with things. So that's fantastic. Um, I'll go back to John here for a second. Tell us, what is the salvage claim?
That's a tricky question. That gets into maritime law and admiralty law and how salvage rights work. Depending on which jurisdiction you're in, it could be 90 days. If correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you're claiming the 7-year salvage. Is that the one you're talking about?
Tarek just said yes to that. Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So on the when you're you have an opportunity from the time that you're born and the time that somebody files the informant or your parents file your birth certificate claim to register your birth. There's a 7-year cycle that happens where you have this salvage claim, and if you don't claim what's yours under the SESKV Act, then ultimately that reverts right back to the Crown, which it does because nobody knows about it. Nobody makes that claim when they're 7 years old. But you end up with this basically 7-year cycle on salvage, so that every 7 years, if it hasn't been touched for 7 years, it's essentially up for grabs for whoever wants to actually take it, whatever the property might be.
The 2D Administration Act of having for yourself to be declared as a living man or a woman, not necessarily a flesh and blood woman, but man or woman, but somebody who is standing in right or has a right, which is a right. And I'm going to define this right now for our audiences. Right is the 4 corners of the paper, and then you have 1 corner of the paper, and that's your right. So no matter how many times you divide that paper, either 4 times, 8 times, or greater than that, as long as you have 1 corner of that paper, you always have a right, which is the corner that you're standing on. And that is what this is actually creating. This claim is what is creating the right. So let's say that a queen, a king, and a monarch, somebody who is standing on this 2D plane as saying that I have the mandate, I have the sovereignty to create these laws for you. Now you're standing on the same level and saying, okay, sure, but here are my conditions for you to create those mandates, and me obliging to those contracts. So let's actually read a piece from the SESTA QV Act 1666. This is the first sentence. I want to read this for the audience because I think that it's been too long that this this term has been thrown around with SESTA QV, but no one actually goes ahead and reads this. But what I want to define this today, right now, it is an act for redress of inconveniences by want of proof of the deceases of persons beyond the seas or absenting themselves, upon whose lives estates do depend. Now that is a different language than what English really is, but what we can interpret it means is that anyone who is dead and lost at sea after 7 years is claimed to be dead and lost at sea, according to the Admiralty law, can come back and claim themselves. As long as that 7-year cycle continues, they will be considered dead and lost at sea. But the moment that they come and create that piece of evidence that says, no, I am here, and with witnesses that witness that the person, the man or the woman who say that they are who they are, witness to that with their thumbprints, then that creates a valid claim. And so under the SESTA-QV Act, that creates joinder with the proper authorities.
Great. You know, I've never heard what the SESTA QV was until only a month ago, and I've been looking into it. And but I want you to tell the audience here. Maybe John, you want to start on this one? What is the SESTA QV Trust?
Okay. SESTA QV Trust is a document that was made up in 1666 that, as Tarek read the preamble there, basically creates I guess you could say, joinder with your vassal, turns your vassal into a vessel, and connects you to the state through admiralty law or whatever admiralty jurisdiction is in existence. And it goes back, like I said, it goes back to 1666, and that's exactly when they created this system of everybody has a bond and is tradable. I pulled it up here. I'm looking at it right now. Section 4 says, if the supposed dead man proved to be alive, then the title is revested. Action for mean profits with interest. So ultimately, it's putting a dollar value on the heads of anybody who's underneath this, wherever jurisdiction this act is actually in, but it's essentially, I can't remember who actually signed this into existence, but it's creating that joinder between you and the state, so that the state can now contract you with you, because without this STKV trust and the associated documents that we have now with it, the state can't do business with the real man or the real woman. So the state has to have that entity, the corporate fiction, the straw man, so they can come back and do business with you in whatever manner they want to, or whatever manner you want to. So they can actually interact. Those two entities can interact together.
Well, I think that's a very important fact on becoming sovereign, because it's reclaiming your joinder, right? You're now able to contract as a man. That's awesome. Tarek, can you expand on that a little bit? What did the Sesta QV Trust is?
What John said is the sum of it. There are a few other mindset things that we have to keep track of, and I feel that people, they can't see the forest for the trees sometimes. So, when somebody says, "Oh, Sesta QV," oh, okay, well, it means the one who lives. Okay, what does that really mean? But yeah, sure, we can define that. What's more important than just the definitions of it is that you understand that this was actually done for your benefit. Because a lot of people say, "Oh, but admiralty law is this and that. It's so bad. It was made up by pirates." All of that is true. Yes, it was made up by pirates. These pirates were the British Navy, by the way, just so you know. So, when they created this act, they did this out of convenience, because a lot of the Navy sailors would go out to war, to battle with other nations, and then they would not return. And so what their mates would do is they would say, well, it's been 7 years, the guy has not returned. Well, maybe we can just take their wealth, whatever they've left over here, and redistribute it according to the laws of the land. And so they would then take the matter to court and then redistribute the wealth. And then if they would come back and lay a claim on their life, then they will be able to get a piece of that back. So that's where the dollar value really comes in, and it's so important. And so the whole gold and silver thing actually exacerbated the problem, because then there was not as much gold and silver available for the people to go around, and anyone who did come back and actually did say that, hey, they were alive, it created a large problem. So when the whole currency system actually came up, they found it exceptionally convenient, they being the bankers and the administrators, the courts, the legislative assembly, whoever you want to call whoever they were, that they would actually put a dollar value or the pound value or the euro value on it, because now you can actually pay them in IOUs instead of having to go through the whole gold and silver thing. And so really the Sesta QV Trust has to do with property. It has nothing to do with a man, a living flesh and blood man or a woman. It has to do with what they have. It's chattel. It's really property. So if I had a full data center with hundreds of computers, and I was washed ashore somewhere while I was traveling on my very expensive jet, and somebody came up and said, well, Tariq is dead and lost at sea. We don't really know what to do with his wealth. Well, who are the next of kin? Okay, well, he has a wife and children. Not maybe, doesn't matter. Well, his parents and brothers and sisters cannot really claim this. So what do we do? So then they would create a legal framework to actually redistribute this wealth somehow. But if I did come back, I said, hey, Now I'm the new Robin Hood, you know, like kind of like Oliver Queen, having to shipwreck and then kind of come back with new set of skills, then they would have to reconsider what I've done. So really, that's what the System QB has to do with it. It is a 2D layer, like I said, administration layer, to make sure that the redress, or rather the redistribution of your wealth, is done in a proper manner. And that's what this has to do with the chattel and your property.
Well, this is fantastic, guys. I love the information we're going to be providing. I wanted to ask a question for the audience here. If I were to kind of follow what you're going to teach, I know that you have over, you know, a really unlimited amount of information to share. Can you give us a little bit more details on that, and what kind of, you know, what kind of teachings and education you were going to teach the audience?
Great question. Well, if you're in the audience and you're watching this, you have a significant advantage, a leg up over the other common man that you're with, your friends and family. They will not know this, but what you will learn is I'll give you, myself, John, Luke, and a few other people that will be joining us a little later. We'll be giving you a set of keys to the kingdom, so to speak, and we will teach you based on our failures and based on our successes, real stuff, real experience, and not from, you know, pulling something out of our behinds or anything like that. We'll show you and we'll teach you what this process does, how this process evolves over the years or has evolved, and what you can do in order to benefit yourself. Well, once again, advantage, leverage versus benefits. Once you get into that, then you'll be able to understand that your power comes not from a piece of paper, but it comes from your thought, from your salvage. Through your vessel, the vessel and the cargo. The cargo are your thoughts, which you can put on the ship, which is the piece of paper, and then when you write those thoughts down, that's the cargo that you send through the space of sea and time. We'll teach you that, and we'll also teach you the noticing, the law of notices, which we'll cover, in the coming days. And so you can expect to learn. There's endless material, and myself, John, and Terrence, and a few others have learned this over a span of many years. You know, the whole span is really just 25 years that we have between us. But there are many other people who have been doing this for much longer, far longer than we have, and we have combined experiences of those people to draw upon to teach you, to give you the information that you were never given in school, never given in universities. You will never be given this in a PhD class even. Why? Because these people really don't know what they're doing, and even if they do know, they have a very in-depth knowledge about their subject. But even then, this knowledge comes at a cost, and that cost is that there is no real action behind that knowledge, and that's a very unfortunate truth. People who have done things through experience or through learning through what other people have done, they have fared much better in this regard. So, if you are an engineer like I am, I'm saying this openly to everybody, that you will fare better learning from an engineer on the job how to become an engineer rather than going to school and getting a certificate. In the same way, like John mentioned in the beginning, he learned law better than the law school. Why? Because in law school, they don't teach you anything. They don't teach you law. They teach you process. How to get somebody in to clean their wealth and serve the system. That's what really the law school is about. And so we're going to reverse that. We're going to topple that, and we're going to put it on its head, and we're going to say we're going to teach you from experience. So this is kind of like a funnel shape. This has the wide edge, and then going down, like kind of like a wormhole that kind of focuses on one point, and that one point is then your ability to communicate or convey what you want to convey on the paper, and write yourself your life the way that you always were entitled to. And that's really what we're teaching, is get your life in order the way that you actually want to live your life.
Wow, that's amazing. John, at the beginning, you said that the process that you've been through is something that you're passionate about teaching others now. Can you expand a little bit more on that with this knowledge that we're going to be teaching, and how you're going to be able to help others the same way Tarek just said?
Well, I've met a lot of people who've, I mean, through the process of life, get into situations that, they maybe don't want to be in, financially or legally. And in the last couple of years, I've met a lot of people who have been in a situation where, they're up against a law that is essentially invalid, but it's still on the books and enforced. It has no authority behind it, yet they're still hounded by this law. It's a victimless crime or something like that. And I've seen this happen enough times that I've now gotten to the point where there's a lot of information. I mean, we got, like we were talking, what was it last week? 60,000 plus laws that govern you within Canada, within a municipality in Canada. And we all get to navigate those laws. One way or another, we all get to navigate those laws, whether we're driving a car or walking down the road or singing a song or whatever it might be. So what I'm hoping to do is help people with their situation and educate them so that they understand, or well, not even educate them, learn them up so that they understand what they need to do and who they are and how they can act in a situation, so that they don't have their rights run over by, a police officer or a judge or even a lawyer or doctor, and so that they can do the things that they want to do in life, but not have to worry about the threat or the fear that comes, or even the anxiety that comes from dealing with a situation where, you have to be in a court for an entire day or something like that, or you have to get stopped by a cop on the side of the road and, he's belligerent or you turn belligerent or whatever might happen. So what I want to do is I want to help people learn these things so that they can operate better within the rules that even within or without the rules that exist right now, so they can have a better way of life, a better understanding.
So it sounds more like not education, but re-education, because we were never educated on all of these things. So we're going to re-educate the real information to the people. So last question for Tarek here. How can I become a sovereign today?
That's a loaded question there, Luke. You don't become a sovereign in a day per se, but we can help you with that. We have the course, for lack of a better term. We have the program. There you go. The program for anyone who actually wants to go through this process. And I will let Luke go through those details in the link. I think, Luke, you have a link somewhere in the description, so you'll have those that information there. But if you really want to go ahead and actually learn from us, we have that information on hand to go right now today. Really, it's really about understanding what the Live Life Claim is, and we'll give you that full explanation. Once you have that explanation and you're confident enough to actually create this document on your own, then you will be able to be a sovereign. It really is as simple as that. But more importantly, you have to know the right process, and that's what we have. And so when you come into this program, we'll teach you the right process, the correct process.
And I think there's probably going to be a lot of helping along the way too. Definitely not a one and done sort of thing. Like this is absolutely going to have to be an ongoing.
Yeah. It's a community. You're part of the community. You, the people in the webinar land or wherever you are, you will become a part of the community, and we'll teach you step by step. It is not one day thing, like John said. We'll teach you over time. Yes, you can create those documents in 2 hours. We can do that for you. But once again, we need to give you that information. And once you join in, I think the price. Do you want me to say the price there, Luke?
Well, I mean, there's so many different things to talk about. It's a process, like you said. So I'll just finish off here by inviting people to first subscribe to our YouTube, our live YouTube. We're going to be doing a live every week to educate people. You're welcome to continue to come and learn. By subscribing, you get to have the notification to continue to join us on our journey here. For those who are missing out on the lives, we're going to have an app with the link below. There's going to be an app. You could just become a member. It's only $9.99 a month. And you get to watch all our past videos, all our weekly videos, and just moving forward, you're just going to continue to learn the process. And then when you are ready to take that step in becoming a sovereign, then we'll have a discussion on, we'll have a way on the app for you to just start the process when you are ready. So, that's kind of where it's at right now. So just subscribe, like us on Facebook, join as a member so you can get all the information and just show it to your friends so that they can understand there's a whole other world out there, and we're here to teach you all about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this podcast. Whether you were joining here today live or you're watching the recorded version of this, thank you all the same.